That Joaquin?
Yeah,
Or the other
Joaquin.
Joaquin?
This Joaquin.
Hey, Joaquin.
That's Joaquin.
Hi. Good evening.
Mm.
So we're going to truncate this a little. We're running late, and that's fine. But we're going to talk about UV resin. I've shown you guys a little bit of UV resin before, but we haven't really put it to use. So I'm going to do a quick demo on inlaying the lid of a box with UV resin. And I want to point something out that I discovered about 3 weeks ago, maybe a month ago. I don't know if it's true with this brand. This is called Picasso, and I'm just trying it out for the first time this week. But I had Total Boat fail in, it was about 80% humidity, and it would not cure. So word of caution, we're below 70% tonight, and I just tested both, and they are curing. But if you're in one of those really humid places, if you don't have a climate controlled shop, you could have some problems. I'm in North Carolina. We've had some rough humidity, and I actually had Total Boat fail on me. Another thing to remember about UV resin is that it's a two-part resin. Well, you only got one bottle. Well, here's part two, UV light. So the second part is photons. It's the UV that is going to activate that resin and cure it. If you put too much color, or if you're trying to, say, glue pieces together with it, you could have trouble. That being said, I've used it to inlay powdered gemstones, the green gemstone, not sapphire, the
Turquoise.
no, not turquoise,
Emerald?
peridot, powdered peridot, worked great. I actually made a wedding ring with it embedded in it, powdered peridot. I made a pen with it, and it worked really, really well. I've used it to cure, to seal a crack with shavings, and it worked. So the instructions with this other brand, this Picasso, says 6% color. So I don't know if I just got lucky in with the shavings or what, but it worked. But I did it in layers. So I put in UV resin, cured it, put in shavings and resin, cured it. And that's the secret with this stuff, is do it in little layers. So real quick, let's put the face shield on and get this round and get a tenon on both ends. And part a lid. And I'll try to do this quickly, but safely. That's a stub center. It likes to spin on me. Now, I do this a little differently because I want translucent spots in the lid of my lidded box. So what I'm going to do is part this off. After I get it in the truck, I'm going to part the lid off, put the lid in the truck, and I'm going to drill it with the, oh, and please forgive me, something's blooming and my allergies are going bonkers. I'm going to drill it with a forestry bit to put the inlay in, and then turn the inside and then turn the outside so that we can see through the resin. Boy, this is a dull skew. That's a little bit better.
So we'll part it right about here. It's going to be a fairly thin lid. So that we can drill into it, and then when we turn it and hollow, we are able to see through the lid with the resin. Now, I've only tried these two brands so far. And I've already prepared a piece of cherry burl for the inlay. But I have to say, the little bit that I've used the Picasso, I'm pretty impressed with it. And of course, my tenon's a little large. We'll get around that.
Excuse me for a second.
I don't know what's blooming, but it's horrible. All right, this is my first shop made tool I ever made. It's a old Sawzall blade, and it's a terrible tool. It looks awful, but it's the first one I ever made, so I keep it. Now, speaking of safety, I usually like to use a little thin kerf pull saw to finish parting off the lids rather than launching them across the planet. It's just safer.
That takes all the fun out of it, Joaquin.
Yeah. Look, I've launched enough things around the shop lately. I don't need to.
You and me both.
I had a student here Saturday, and we had a tenon fail twice. So we went to Lyle Jameson's glue block system. And it's, you know what the culprit is? This old style G3 anniversary edition has a tooth right here. And if you're turning cross grain and you put a tenon on this 60, just the 60 millimeter jaws, half the time, about six times in a dozen, it'll actually split that. It'll actually split that cross grain tenon. Now the new one doesn't have that tooth. I don't know if you guys can see that, but it doesn't have the tooth on the 60 mil. So lesson learned: don't use the old style G3 for cross grain. For cross grain tenon. So we're just going to smooth this out real quick. We can undercut it a little. We're going to drill here in just a second. So your size is up to you. And I prefer to drill this just so that I can accurately measure for the insert. If I'm using a wood insert, you don't have to use a wood insert to do this. You could just do resin. You could just add layers of resin and color. You can use alcohol dyes. I'm using some mica powder tonight, but you have to, if you use mica powder, you've got to go light. Oh, oh. This always helps if you tighten your chuck. Drill bits work better. Now we're only turning at about 420 RPM. And we're going to go a little past 3/4 of the way through. Again, the reason I do this is because I want the lid to be translucent. I want you to be able to see light through it. So if I put it in inside out, that gives us a little bit more room to get a shape on the inside and get a shape on the outside and still be able to see. So we're just gonna go right about there. Should be good. And if your Forstner bit is so hot when you're done drilling that you can't touch it and take it out and hold it, you're drilling too fast. Slow your lathe down. All right, so that is 1 5/8. So we're going to set the lid aside for a moment. And I've got a little sacrifice block here that I have CA glued a piece of just a scrap thin slice of burl from another project. This is just some cherry burl. And that's CA glued on that little sacrifice block. And we will double check our diameter here. And we are at 1 5/8, a little bit bigger, but that's why we check. So real quickly, we will cut that. I'm going to pull the tailstock off so that I don't run my elbow into it. It always hits you right on the funny bone.
And there ain't nothing funny about it.
Hmm?
I said, and there ain't nothing funny about it.
No, there's not. I always jump when it hits me. And then I go, why did I take that thing off? All right, this is, well, there's no real grain direction, so slow your lathe down a little bit. Burl is always exciting. We'll go ahead and flatten this a little bit and see if we can. I'm running a tiny bit high. Now, what I'm doing here is I'm preparing this surface, and I'm not going to use the resin to glue this in. Remember, so I can't use it as a, I can't use the resin to glue this in. I can use it to fill around it, which is what we're going to do, but it won't glue it in because we can't shine light through wood. So when you're using this, when you're working with this stuff, think about that. Let's see, where's my square end scraper here? Okay. All right, that's ballpark. We'll sneak up on it. All right, where'd I put my caliper? It's my favorite game. Where'd I place my caliper? All right, that should fit in there pretty nicely. CA glue shears. It's held it just fine. There's a little spot of CA glue, but all you got to do is get a good wedge in there and it will shear for you. We'll snap it right off. So we're going to CA glue it, but that CA glue is going to end up being turned away and the resin will ultimately be the only thing that's holding this in. So I'm just going to take our little disc, the surface we just prepared. Hit it with a little bit of accelerator. And we will set up for resin while that CA glue sets. So we're going to talk about safety again. You need to be in a well-ventilated area. It doesn't smell strongly, but there are still gases. It's still chemical resin. So I had to close my shop doors because the sun was setting, shining right in my eyes. But my regular person-sized door is open and I've got my fan going, so I've got plenty of circulation. My wife got me these wonderful little silicone pads. They're great. They're perfect for resin. I don't even know if they were at Walmart. They were very inexpensive. So one thing I really like about the Picasso brand is it came with these cool little mixing cups, and it came with a little silicone mixing tool. And that's really nice. Total Boat doesn't do that. You got to buy them on your own. And the number one safety recommendation I can make for you when you're working with resin is if you don't put gloves on, you get what you deserve. And that will be resin caked fingers. Wear gloves, please. Wear gloves. Okay, so this is the UV Beast 2. It's 47 watt, I think, UV flashlight. The first thing we're going to do is just put a quick thin layer down in the bottom there. Let it run down. And then we'll mix our color.
So a little bit down in there. If you're careful in your application, you shouldn't get bubbles, but this stuff is also pretty thick. So the cautious addition of a little bit of heat will help it run. Just real quick hit with the torch, and that'll also break any bubbles. And you turn your UV light on and you expose it to UV light. Now this stuff cures in about 2 minutes. The total boat, I've had it go for 2 minutes and I've had it go for 20. And again, my discovery was that the challenge I was dealing with was humidity. So just be aware if you're in a high humidity area and you don't have humidity control in your shop, it may not work. So 6% ratio is really low. So we're just going to get a hint of color, but we have to maintain that translucency. And mica goes pretty far. If you're not used to using resin, mica does go pretty far. Scrape down the sides, make sure you get it all blended in. And I'm not worried about getting resin on any of this because it's silicone and it'll break right off. So that's another thing to think about and remember is that will just come right clean off of there. Now, there we go. Good piece of wire. I always test to make sure that I've hit it with enough light. So just something to, and that's sealed. That is solid. So there's an obvious advantage to traditional resin. That's already sealed. It's already solid. We can move on to the next step, which is to add our color. Get it around the edges. Now, if you have a larger project and you're using a lot of this, you can set it out in the sunlight. And after about 20 minutes, it'll cure. And you can do it. This is a pretty thick pour. This is a 1/4 of an inch deep. But as long as light can make its way through it and it is translucent, it should be fine. Again, silicone's going to take care of all of this will come off of silicone. In fact, it won't even cure if I don't hit it with UV light. So if you do get a little spillage, right, you can actually just come in with a paper towel. You can wipe it away. This is not going to cure without UV light. Get that little tiny bit left out of there. So to clean your little silicone cup and your little silicone scraper mixer, all you got to do is hit it with the light for a minute or two and then just move it around and it'll snap right off. Okay, UV light. If you do have bubbles, that didn't bubble. If you do have bubbles, again, you can just hit it real quickly with the torch. And it takes about 2 minutes. And we'll give it a little bit extra. Give it a little bit extra time because there is color in there. So you can expect when there is something blocking light or diffusing the light to take a tiny bit longer to cure, but we'll test it. And if we're not happy with it, we'll hit it with the light again. Almost there.
Does somebody have the link perhaps for this UV resin? Maybe they can put it in the chat.
You can find it all over Amazon. It's not expensive. You can't get it in very large amounts, at least not that I've found yet. But I got both of these, Total Boat. UV Cure Clear Resin. And then this other one is called Picasso. And I got them both at on Amazon. And like I said, they're very inexpensive. They're really not that expensive at all. And of the two, I'm a little bit more impressed with the Picasso, to be honest with you. All right, that is cured. I'm getting no bounce, no resistance. That is solid all the way through. Now, again, disposal of our little mixer here. All we got to do is hit it with the UV light and our little spills, and those will pop right out. So there's a tiny bit of it probably ran under a little. So we may, on the outside, we may find a little bit of leakage, a little bit of softness because it ran under. But we can, as we expose it, again, just hit it with the UV light, and that should take care of the issue. So just a little bit of light, and that's coming right out. That's solid. So cleanup is not hard with this, unlike some other resins. We'll give it a little bit extra light. Better safe than sorry. Do protect your bedways, though. But just like any other resin, it'll pop right off. You can scrape it off. But rather than 24 hours in a pressure pot, we're ready to turn.
So we'll just give our inside a little bit of shape. And you can see that cuts just fine. Cuts just like any other resin. A little bit more.
What tool is that you're using?
I'm sorry?
What tool is it you're using to make this bed?
This is a Sorby 3/8" spindle gouge with Mark Soleil style grind on it.
Cool. Thanks.
Okay, that cut really cleanly. And again, I'm checking it. It is clean. It is dry. That is cured, fully cured resin. Sand it the same way you do the wood. And we'll go ahead and real quick sand that up so that when we finish the other side, we can see the finished project.
Oh. Maybe. So same as any other time with sanding, slow your lathe down. This is resin, it is plastic. If you heat it up, it will soften, just like anything else, any other plastic, any other resin. So pay attention to that, be careful. Let's see what I got going on here. I don't like this corner. Let me fix this corner real quick, sorry. Being picky.
There we go. And again, look at that. That's like just like any other resin. It's flammable at that stage too. When you're shaving it and you have those thin shavings, it is flammable like any other resin. So I don't know, it was a couple months ago when Moon Pie Creations had dropped the tools, made a spark. It landed in his resin pile and it caught his shop on fire. Be careful. Okay. Oh, for time's sake, I'm trying to abbreviate this, but I want you to see how it finishes. Let me get a piece of 320. Now, whatever finishing process you use with resin, you can use with this. For these little boxes, I just use the same finishing process I use with the wood around it, which in this case is going to be to sand it to 400 and then introduce Brad's Workbench sanding paste to it. And it finishes pretty nicely. Okay. If you have a cling spore local to you, they usually have a bargain bin in the back where they have the cutoffs of their industrial rolls, and they sell sandpaper of every grit imaginable by the pound. It is a really, really great deal, a great way to find sandpaper, high quality sandpaper in large quantities, and it's inexpensive. And
they actually have a number of varieties of bargain boxes now.
yeah,
I haven't bought any in years because the bargain box is huge, but it's like,
oh, it's awesome. Yeah, all kinds of different sandpapers, and it's so, I mean, it saves so much money. It saves so much money. So if you have clean spore, take advantage of that. Okay, so again, not really doing a terribly thorough job. Just trying to get this quickly to show you. But we'll get the sanding paste in there. This is food safe, by the way. And I've always found that this sanding paste works best. If you start out slow, work it in. Go to a clean spot on towel. Speed up about 100 RPM. Rinse and repeat until your paper towel comes away clean. Now, apparently, I'm in a pen turning group. Excuse me. And a lot of pen turners are doing this, doing layers of UV resin instead of label casting. So they'll put a label on a tube and then simply do layers of UV resin and build it up and then turn the UV resin down. So there's another option, again, saving time. You can see, you can get a nice finish on there and you can take it further if you want to. We're not going to for time's sake. But rather than being your label cast being, again, in a pressure pot for 24 hours, you can use the UV resin to put a label on. I thought that was pretty interesting. I hadn't even thought of that possibility. I haven't tried it yet. I've found so many other things that I can do with this stuff that I haven't even got around to that. So standard box, again, we're just did the inside so that we will be able to see through the lid. So we'll see if I can manage to hit a jam within the first dozen tries here. Where did I put my caliper? That is always the question. And again, as you're turning this away, if you feel like you found a soft spot, if you feel like it's not cured because you had too much color in there, hit it with the light again. Yeah, move my tailstock. I'm tripping over it. I really like this little Sorby 1/4 inch parting tool because it's got a long shaft. So when you're cutting the sides of the walls of your box, you have a lot of real estate that you can look down and sight on your bedways to make sure you've got square walls. It's a great little tool. Okay, we are in the right neighborhood. So what I'm talking about is if you want to make sure that you have a good jam, square walls, if you set the tool and you look down the shaft here, you can see your bedway. You can make sure that you're cutting straight in. And as long as you just keep half an eye on that, you should be able to cut square walls. That might be it. Ooh, we're right there. So it actually takes longer to fit your lid than it does to cure the resin. There we go. Beautiful.
So now it's just simply a matter of giving ourselves a little bit of shape and revealing the inlay on the outside. And we're almost there. You can start to see where the CA glue is and the resin. There's the center of the Forstner bit. Okay, take a look. That's the CA. So now we know exactly where we're at. There we go. Okay, so we have an air pocket here, and there is a little spot that didn't get a lot of light. So we're going to stop real quick and we're going to fix that. Now the color is underneath, so we don't need to fill this with, we don't need to mix color again or anything like that. We just need
Clear resin, just to fill that void.
Hey, Joaquin, how did that void get there, do you suppose?
I'm sorry,
How did the void get there, do you suppose?
it's an air, the shape of that little piece of burl, it came out, it curled under.
Ah, okay,
That's the edge. That's right on the edge of the burl.
gotcha. Okay,
So-
thank you.
So you got to be aware that, again, where light doesn't hit it, it's not going to cure. So that's all that is it didn't cure. So it soaked through. That's what I was turning away at. It soaked out into here because the light didn't get to it because it ran up under the shape of the edge of that burl. That's one drawback to this. When you have a pressure pot, right, traditional resin, that pushes that resin in. We're not doing that here. We don't have that option. However, again, we're also not waiting 24 hours. So make sure had a little shaving in there. Blow that out. You can see there's a little liquid. So that light just didn't get there. Gloves again. And we've already got color in there. And this stuff does cure completely transparent. So we'll just get in there. Fill any low spots. Because we will turn that down. So being a little bit over is okay. And hit it with light. So again, about 2 minutes. But I have experienced the higher the humidity, the longer it doesn't like to cure. So we're still under 70% humidity tonight. But that day that it didn't cure on me, it was like 83% humidity. So probably nothing would have cured on that day. So you can see that cure's crystal clear. We're almost hard, almost fully hardened. Okay. Let's check it. Rock hard.
All right. That's ready for sanding. So we have a little bit out. We had it chip out. So again, it chipped out. Do the same thing. It's really quick if you have these challenges.
Something like flies.
And that might be a little other spot. We might have revealed that spot as we got deeper into it. Again, because we didn't have an even shape on the edge of that burrow. There is some degree of exothermic reaction here. However, it's not, I think it's more just a reflection of the heat of the UV lights than it is the resin as it's curing, heating up. I think it's from the light. And it's not so hot that you can't touch it. Give it a couple more seconds, but that's pretty much cured. Never hurts to just give it a little extra light while you're doing things like moving this stuff out of the way. What's it going to do? Cure more? But it's cured. It's cured that fast. This brand, for whatever reason, this Picasso brand seems to cure faster than Total Boat. I haven't sat down with a stopwatch, but it just, from using them, it seems to cure faster. I'll take a couple of real light passes and sand it real quick so you can see the effect of the translucence.
There we go. Still a couple bubbles in there, but we're going to go ahead and sand it.
I just put that chunk of 220. Now, again, obviously, that's not a saleable finish, but I'm trying to do this quickly just to show you the effect. All right, can we get it off of there? There it goes.
See, a skew is good for something.
Well, I would have used my skew to turn to outside, but it has a little nick in it, and I've got to spend about 20 minutes on the grinder with it. Because I've been using it a whole lot, and I got a bump on the edge. Okay, you ready? So
Oh,
you
cool.
can see right through there.
Oh,
You can see
wow,
the
that's
bubbles.
neat.
Nice.
See the bubbles,
Yeah.
but you can fix that. Again, for speed's sake. Come on, focus you.
It looks great.
That is.
So yeah, that's a use that I have been testing for UV resin. So my challenge to you would be, what else can you do with it?
Yeah.
Any questions?
That's cool.
Yep.
Very nice.
I just ordered mine.
Nice, Joaquin. Can you turn it over so we can see the inside of the lid again?
Yeah, no, I
Oh, that's
didn't,
really
I
sweet.
did sand the
Nice.
rim and everything. But come on, focus you.
Thank you. Thank
So
you.
this I like. What I like about this is if you use all those little weird chunks of burl that are left over when you start
Mhm.
shaping it and cutting it, what do you do with those?
Right.
Remember, there's no such thing as scrap wood. It's just wood you haven't turned yet.
That's for sure.
All right, that's what I got for you tonight.
Beautiful.
thanks,
beautiful.
That's great.
It really was a great demo.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes,
Well,
please.
Good demo.
Very good. Thank you.
Very nice.
Yes.
Thank you,
Joaquin.
Joaquin.
Nice
Sorry we
demo.
started so late.
Oh, no worries.
We got her done, didn't we?
You bet.
All right. Well, thanks, Joaquin.
You betcha.